Oh, okay. I guess I almost took this one out because I didn't want to admit this. I have an Aglaonema. I didn't ask for an Aglaonema. Those of you who've followed us for a while know that I got rid of all our houseplants when we moved to this house because it's too dark in this house to grow houseplants. They just they just languish. I do have a couple of grow lights, and this grow light arrangement my sister brought over. She said, I'm not going to use it this year. Maybe you'll use it. I was going to give it back. And then this week had a bunch of plants for a talk that Roberta Masters set up for the Alpha Delta Kappa Society. And I said, well, I might as well put them in there. And boy, that hooks you on.
Yep. All this thing you got.
So that made me look at the poor Aglaonema. This is a Chinese evergreen, the variety called tricolor.
We've had it for a while.
We've had it for a couple of years, and it was involved in a bleach incident a while back. Janet sleepily picked up the bleach bottle instead of the fertilizer bottle. Poured some bleach on some plants, but it's really hard to kill a Chinese evergreen. Really hard to kill a Chinese evergreen. So it languished, and now it's growing to where each stem that it keeps only its tip leaf, and all the older leaves, other than that one, they die. Said, okay, so I took it out of the pot. Here's what the roots look like. Now, you know what good vegetables look like in your crisper drawer. You know that's not a good vegetable. Those roots died quite a while ago, and this plant has been living on basically nothing. When I take the soil off of it, it has a little bit of good root up in the main stem, and the base of that root, for instance.
Right here, right there, maybe.
But not much. And yet it's living, and yet it still keeps pushing out new growth. It says, well, I'm going to keep trying to live. So I'm looking at 3 separate pieces really in here. So I pulled them apart. And one of them looks like this. It has 3 leaves. So you can see the leaves that are dying.
3.
But I want to point out to you that the one that looks the worst there is the tip leaf. I said, this stem is not doing well. This stem is really, even the newest leaf is dying back. I'll keep those 2. And that's all the root that they have. And they don't, basically it's just the primordia of roots. I said, okay, here's the one that I'm not going to keep. You can see the damage on the stem. And there on the side, the discoloration when you cut it wasn't clean white. I said, no, I don't need to put something damaged back in there. So I got a couple of little pots, half filled them with soil, put the stem in, moistened them, and put them now next to the kitchen sink where I will pay attention to them and nurse them back to health.
In theory.
Oh yeah, they'll be fine. They're Chinese evergreens. You can't kill these guys.
Well, by putting it in a webinar, you ensure that you're going to watch over it.
Yeah. Okay. And it is getting to be time to do that now. It's time to up pot things. The light is coming up. Once the days shift to where it's a little bit longer day than night at the equinox, the plants all pick that up. They respond to that increasing light, and so do your house plants. You might not think so inside the house, but they do. And once they start growing vigorously, they'll grow new roots, so you can put them into their slightly bigger pots and not worry about waterlogging them. And don't ever pour bleach on them. It's not a good thing.
Okay. We don't have any new questions coming up so far, though a bit of discussion about David's clay soil tree. Carol is wondering about Nyssa sylvatica. Ruth says the Nyssa that she knows of are in the sand. Ruth is talking about sweet gum. Yeah, so any thoughts there?
Nyssa sylvatica is a beautiful native tree, and it likes moisture, but I don't believe it's going to do real well in the
best one I've seen was out in the prairie.
Out in the wide open area, or the one that's down at community college where we had the talk down near the Holden Arboretum. But the sweet gum, that one is a good street tree and good in different kinds of soil. So I would go with the sweet gum. We've not loved sweet gums because of the fruit that falls out.
Fruit is the spiky, almost looks like a mace.
Yeah.
Feels like a mace if you step on it or it hits you.
But it's beautiful.
From a lawnmower.
Beautiful fall color on a sweet gum, and it is a good sturdy tree.
Susan is saying that my daughter's houseplants all have tiny gnat-like creatures flying around them, despite her best efforts.
Well, Some of those might be fungus gnats. Usually that's what I figure is going on with people. And usually they are watering problems. Fungus gnats fly around, mate, and then they lay eggs in the soil. And the larvae in the soil eat roots, which is not good for the plants. But they also eat organic matter. And they live right in the surface where it's moist. If you let the plant dry down between waterings, don't keep that surface always moist, then you're going to discourage the fungus gnats and kind of ruin the environment that's set up for them. Another thing that you can do is put a mulch of activated charcoal on the surface. We bought activated charcoal from a teacher's supply. I don't know where else you go to get it.
Yeah. Art supplies.
Yeah, but what you want to do is keep the surface of the soil dry. You can, if you want to get ahead of it, you can use an insecticide and drench the soil to kill the grubs that are in there. Well, we don't do that. If you don't change that watering that caused it to happen in the first place, you're just going to get them back again.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
Yep, I think that's all we've got for now.
Okay, we didn't get any pictures. I didn't look up any pictures, but Peggy pleaded with us to talk about peat for peat's sake. Especially since we're all talking about potting right now. Peat is a valuable resource in its own ecosystem. It belongs in a peat bog, and it is terrible that peat bogs are getting ripped up all over the place. We try to use as little potting soil as we can. It's one of the reasons that I cut potting soil with sharp sand that's locally quarried. I've been asked, well, what about using coconut coir instead of peat? The carbon footprint of taking coconuts from the tropical part of the world and bringing a byproduct and processing them through the whole world doesn't seem to me to be a great way to do things. Bark, finely ground bark is great, and there is a finely ground bark product you can buy called soil conditioner.
Yep.
And basically it's composted fine ground bark, and generally that's what we see it packaged as, is soil conditioner. It makes a beautiful mulch too. So yeah, I'd rather we didn't use peat, but there's not too many options for it. And Michelle is warning people that if you like to attract the native bees, the mason bees, the ones that will bore into wood, you don't want to have too many of them. Don't encourage them to have too many, because when you have more of them, then you get more of their parasites, including this parasitic wasp. And that's the way all ecosystems work. Just like with when you get enough leaf miner, the ants start moving in and eating leaf miner larvae.
Ladybugs follow the aphids.
Yeah. So tell me where we got, and then I've got we have some other things set to the side that we can go to.
Ruth is saying that coir doesn't have the same properties of peat. Yeah, that it's not a good replacement. Barbara says instead of activated charcoal, can you use diatomaceous earth?
I suppose that you could use diatomaceous earth, but the activated charcoal is going to stay dry, where the diatomaceous earth, if you put a thick layer of diatomaceous earth, it gets almost gummy, it cakes up. And if diatomaceous earth stays dry, then it's airborne, and there is an EPA hazardous materials sheet on diatomaceous earth for not handling it in enclosed areas, because you do not want to inhale that stuff. So I think I would stay away from the diatomaceous earth.
You can get it at aquarium stores, the charcoal.
Oh, okay, there we go.
And Nancy's recommending tanlin for the gnats, since she bought it at one of those hydroponic garden stores.
Tamlin, can you?
Tanlin is how she spelled it in the chat.
And that's as a peat substitute?
Oh, sorry, I think for the gnats. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I'm not familiar with that product. There are a number of different organic pesticides that are made from the roots of plants that are resistant to insects, and the leaves of plants that are resistant to insects. And it may be one of those.
Yeah, it's showing up on hydroponics site. Biological control. It's a microscopic crystal, which when eaten by the cereid fly maggots, swells up, perforates the gut wall, and kills the maggot.
Talk about terrible ways. I mean, they're all terrible ways to kill. Diatomaceous earth kills by drying out the exoskeleton so that it cracks and peels and they fall apart. I mean, you don't want to think too hard about any of those things.
All right. Well, on that note, that's the questions we have for now.
Okay.